which I try, and actually, I wrote the column based on a fan. And I say this all the time. Jim Tressel, the Ohio State football coach, once told me years ago, he said, read your email. He goes, you don't have any idea the next genius, and even if they're not, people have great ideas. My favorite column in this book, of several, is the Tebow column, which came from a guy named Michael Devine in Ohio, which I was sputtering one day, kind of trying to put my arms around the Tebow thing, and he gave me a word, sustainability. So I called two of my friends. One was an NFL GM, one was a scout, and we just had dinner together, and we talked and talked. And that column, whether Tebow comes back or not, really explains to me, 20 years from today, what general managers are looking for and why the Tebow thing didn't work. And of all the columns, you could say, well, it's dated, he's out of the league. But that column, to me, in 10 years, a scout will look at it, and you won't have to call and yell at me about Tebow, because it's not about Tebow, it's about sustainability. And so a lot of these columns I wrote, because when you release books, a sports book is weird. For instance, in my book, I had to write, if Lane Kiffin survives USC, which he didn't. He got fired 3 weeks later, but you have to turn it into your publisher. So even to the last second, like Mike Glennon now is starting for Tampa Bay, and I'm not sure if he made the book or not, but you're constantly having to update. So to the last second, there were guys cut in the NBA, and I'm pulling them out of the book. And I think I may, for the paperback, I'm going to add some stuff. I've got new ideas and new things and funny lines and rants, so I may add and do the same book with about 25-30% new stuff for paperback. So hopefully I can come back. But sign all the stuff you have today, take pictures, do whatever you'd like. If you have any questions, love to. I know I irritate you often. I irritate everybody in my family often. But I think the introduction to the book kind of sums up my life. I grew up in a very small town, and my first sports experience sort of shaped my kind of view on the world, where I saw a Harlem Globetrotter drinking a beer before a game. And it just kind of changed the way I saw sports forever. And then my best friend's brother, Brad Jones, a few years later went to a Seahawks-Raiders game and saw Kenny Stabler and Fred Biletnikoff smoking and playing cards before a game. And that was a great team, by the way. That was the Patriots of their day. They won their division every year. So those two views really shaped how I see sports, and that everybody's sort of BSing everybody, and there's sort of two worlds, and mine is sort of unvarnished and uncompromised. And I'm going to tell you, it's not always helped me in ratings. I've been dropped in markets because I've been too critical of certain teams. But, to me, 30 years from now, a market may drop me or a market may keep me, but you'll say, that guy, he didn't try to BS me. That guy was a straight shooter. So I called my sister today, and I said, I have a book signing. I come from a small town. My town had 27 people on the football team. I was the only player that didn't play both ways. Tells you all you need to know about me. I was the quarterback, but we were so small, he was like, I'm not letting my quarterback play defense because you get hurt. And in a small town like where I live, like 2 kids could throw the ball. Everybody could run and hit each other. So 27 guys played. And we were number 1 in state my junior year, which I didn't play much. And then when I played, we weren't very good. But in that sort of small town, you really learn you see things differently, I think. You manufacture things. People are always like, how can you talk forever? People say to me, how do you talk for 3 hours a day? And my answer is, you should hear the other 15. I talk nonstop. So when Rush Limbaugh comes from a small town, Sean Hannity, a lot of us that talk, I don't know where Mark Levin, who's popular in this area, comes from, but a lot of us, I have kind of a theory on my kids. I don't give my kids a lot of stuff for Christmas. I try to give them memories, but I have a theory that the more you give them, the less creative they get. And my kids are like, Dad, I'm bored. And I'm always like, perfect, be bored. I think increasingly we give our kids more. I'm guilty too. I mean, everybody's guilty, but they're less creative. When you grow up in a small town and you don't have the Jets and the Giants and the Bears, you talk a lot to yourself. You got to make stuff up. You become really creative. It's amazing how many artists and authors and writers and people who talk to themselves come from really desolate spots. And it's amazing how many writers come from Mississippi. I mean, Mississippi must lead the nation in best-selling authors. There's not a lot to do in Mississippi. There's 8 college football games a year at home. That's it. So that's sort of the genesis of my background, and love being on in New York. New York's a tough market for us to crack. I filled in for Oberman. I'm doing something right now where I may end up moving to the city for about 4 days a week. This is about 90 minutes from my house. Come here about 20 times a year. New York's always been a tough market for us to crack on radio because FAN has so much history. And the Northeast generally, I'm from the West Coast, the Northeast tends to be a little more into tradition. People get married, they get married longer, they go to church more often. And because of that, people tend to be more loyal to their teams. You know, out West, everybody's kind of moved there from somewhere else. So if their team stinks, pow, let's go out to eat. You know, somebody in the Northeast, they're with their Jets. I mean, if you're a Jets fan through all these years, that's a fan. I mean, even Laker fan, they have a bad first half, it's like, pow, let's go to Wolfgang Pucks, you know. So out East, you have to crack through that barrier of loyalty and that barrier of tradition. The divorce rates are higher out West. People are like, I'm done with it, I'm getting it. People out East, they fight through it. You know, they burrow through it. You have lower divorce rates. So it's always been harder for all syndicated hosts to burrow into the Northeast. Boston, forget it. At least New York tends to be educated and diverse. New York is funny. You know what's great about New York? My wife hates Boston. She hates, I'm okay with good sports, but I'm more of a New York guy. And I always tell her, a buddy of mine owns not a buddy, but a friend, owns a gym. It's a beautiful gym. It's called Big Sky. And he has two. So he opened one in like Greenwich, and it immediate hit. And he said, Greenwich had a lot of gyms. We didn't know. He goes, immediate hit. He goes, then we opened one near Boston, and it was easily the best gym, and nobody went to it. And I said, and he said, you know why that is? It's because New Yorkers, New Jersey, they welcome you in. Come on, if you can get better food, we don't care where you're from. Good show, they don't care. Boston, you know what they say about New England? They build big fences. So New England's very core essence of who New England is I'm okay without you. So he goes, it took us 2 years to make $1. And he goes, we knew our sports club was better than anybody's. New York, we opened it up, they were like, nice club, where can I join? So New York, to me, New York, New Jersey has always been so welcoming. People here are like, it's a tourist town, you make a lot of money with people, you make a lot of money, people are new, it's diverse. In Boston, everybody's 5'7" with a Red Sox hat and angry. You know, if you don't look like Fitzy, you don't fit in. My wife always says Boston's an old antique house. Like you walk into it and the stores creak and the plumbing doesn't work, and their response is, "Hey, deal with it. It's Boston." New York's like, "Yeah, we'll fix the house for you." You know, they've made so much money through the years on people that are new. So I've always felt welcome here. I mean, this is a great testament to. I'm a kid from on the beach on the West Coast, and this crowd just blows me away. I mean, literally, it just bottom of my heart. It's great. So, do you want me to start signing?
You want to take a couple questions, actually?
I just can't stop talking.
All right, Colin. I'm a Cowboys fan. My son right here, he's a Cowboys-Raiders fan. We're going to the game next week.
Yes.
We're flying to Dallas.
Yes.
Do you have any hope, any advice for either one of these teams? Because, I know you like Romo.
I'm a big believer in structure. The New York Giants don't listen to the media. That's why the New York Giants have 2 Super Bowls. The Jets, they're glued to the back page. That Tebow move was a circus. The Knicks, James Dolan, he listens to everything. I tend to think organizations that don't listen to me, I respect more. They say a healthy marriage, you fight a lot. A healthy organization doesn't listen to me. But if you're listening to Mike on The Fan, or you're listening to me, or Boomer, or Mike and Mike, and I had James Dolan in the back of his limo once call my general manager because I called him a meatball. And I'm like, whoever runs the Knicks is a meatball. And he was in the back of his limo, and he called, he's on my station, blah. The Mara family's not calling my station. So the Cowboys have a structural issue, is that Jerry Jones is a really smart guy with oil and this, but he's too hands-on. It's dysfunctional. So despite talent, I think Jerry's becoming Al Davis, which is brilliant but outdated. And I think this is a very corporate league. The Patriots, the Steelers and the Giants, it's a great example. The Giants go 0-6, they're completely in the tank. I would say the second worst team in the league. They could win their 5th straight game. That's a company that had major crisis, was a disaster. Every other team in the league, the Cowboys are 0-6, they're done. The Giants are 0-6, what do you know? Beat Dallas, tie for first. That's a well-run organization because every organization faces crisis. ESPN's had crisis, IBM, everybody's got crisis. The Giants handle crisis really well. The Jets, not so much. So, Bow.
Sure. I was going to ask Colby